Hello, and David will continue with Pervader. A white morning glare nearly blinded me as I stepped outside. Some of the men from yesterday were attending to their village routines as when I had first seen them. Now they held no concern for me. Such a strange situation to see them out and about like farmers and know that they were much more than what they appeared. I never imagined I'd become involved with people like that. Jim Show wasn't in sight, yet I heard him grunt nearby as if engaged in some heavy task. I walked along the side of the inn and turned the corner. I found him near the cellar hatch through which we passed the night before. He was standing, sword in hand, poised in front of a straw dummy. His arms were quick, whipping with his sword at the target. When he swung too hard, he yelled out. 1, 2 swift horizontal cuts. Then he came down with a third, a heavy strike cutting deep. Strawy needles flew off of the target as a large chunk dropped from its right side. It made no effect to silence my footsteps. He noticed me standing there. He only paused for a moment before continuing to spar with his lifeless opponent. I ambled towards him, keeping a mild manner as I approached. That thing seems to be dead already. I thought a silly remark like that would ease him a bit, though he kept swinging away. Only as I got closer did he slow down his assault. He stopped and turned to look at me. A few droplets of sweat dewed his forehead, and his eyes showed numbing frustration. Are you afraid you'll have to use that? He nodded towards the sword in his hand. Like a skillful motion, he lifted the blade at the height of his chest, turning it over and inspecting it. That seems to have shaken off some of his bad mood. You learn to fight in case you ever need it. It's not about being afraid. It's about being ready. Have you ever used it against a person? Of course, us watchmen spar amongst ourselves every day to keep our skills and senses sharp. I mean, against someone who would want to do you harm. He stared at me for a moment, then put the sword back in its scabbard. Almost that night. Thank you. His brow jerked upwards in surprise. For what? For coming to my rescue back in the chariot. I should have said it sooner. If you weren't there, I don't know what would have happened to me. So thank you for saving my life. He glanced left and right, nodding away in a quick, jerking motion. It looks like he doesn't know how to accept thanks. Sure, you know, it's my duty as a watchman to protect people against pervaders. It's just a shame you had to become one yourself. This filter gives him a unsteady apprehension against me. He cannot see past it. It seems he cannot see his own. I felt an urge to point it out, but I knew that wouldn't do any good. If I am to become his friend, I must better understand him. So, Alan said we should visit a sanctuary. He looked away aside, offering no comment. He wanted to do something else? Umbo are out there with our dagger. It's baffling me why we are not chasing after them. Do you think the three of us can take them on? It's not like that, okay? I'm not dumb. You don't just go knock on their door and demand a dagger. What will you do? I will go to Tender Hall. We've known for a long time that they circle that area. Now with Helen's information, we know a little bit more. They've been friendly with one of the locals, a healer. Not sure why, but it doesn't matter. That's our lead. Do you think this healer will tell us where to find him? Doesn't matter if he tells us anything. We can just follow him and see whom he talks to. You saw how they approached us. They were sneaky. If you weren't there that night to raise the alarm, they probably would have gotten away with it. We could borrow some of their own tactics, wait for an opportunity to show up, then snatch the dagger back, just like they did to us. If we're lucky, we might even be able to put spokes in their wheels, ruin some of their other plans. Aaron gave us good info. We would be mad not to use it to our advantage. Wouldn't it be better if Alan found a dagger at the sanctuary? Better for whom? He doesn't know whether or not he'll find one there. How could he? If these daggers were more common, we would have heard about them by now. We would have known there was a way to turn people to pervaders. You're right, we can't be sure we'll find a dagger in the sanctuary. Umbro could be too dangerous, though. I mean, we're not an army. It's just you and me and Alan. I'm a bit afraid, to be honest. If we had the Watts with us, things would be different, but we're on our own, Jim saw. All we can do is make sure we stick together and make the right calls. Alan at least has some knowledge about all this magic stuff. If he says we have a better chance of finding a solution in the sanctuary, then maybe that's our best option. And if he's wrong, Alan said we can follow up on Umbro afterwards. He said that. Alan is not unreasonable. He can change his mind if you talk to him. It's just we need to get along. We need to be able to rely on each other. If we fight amongst ourselves, Umbro wins. Jim Star turns away. He sighed and kicked at the pieces of straw littering the ground. Although he said nothing for a while, I understood his brooding silence to mean he has yielded to Alan's plan. He puts aside his doubts to go along with me and Alan, even though he's against it. That wasn't enough for me, though. What if we went after Umbro and something bad happened? I would gladly die fighting against him. His voice was shaky and reckless, with reckless courage, and held within it a definite blindness towards me and Alan's fates. It is a kind of brashness that stems from a good heart, yet prickles at those it does not want to harm. If I can fight against Umbro directly, then at least I'm doing something. It's not just about me, you know? I'm a watchman. I'm supposed to protect people against this kind of stuff. My little brother's waiting for me back home in auditing. I've got older brothers too, a mother and a father. They will want to see me safe again, because before I left them, I promised that I would return to visit in a year. That was half a year ago, and now I have half more to go. You're very brave. You saved my life, and I thank you again for it. I'm not as brave or as skilled as you. I can't help you fight against Umbro. Right now, the only thing I can do is be cautious and learn. I think that's the best bet if I am to survive this, because I have a promise to keep to the people who I love. You made that promise too to your father. It wasn't a promise against Umbro, but to him, because he wants to see you safe again. Isn't that what it's all about? He glanced away for a moment, then gathered his thoughts. My father's the best person I know or will ever know. He told me to help you find the dagger, and that is what I'm going to do. I may disagree on how we go about it, but I also have to keep my promises. Still, my father, both of us broke our oaths doing things this way. All of this is way outside of what we normally do as watchmen. Jonas's shaking hand squeezed the sword's handle. He looked away from me, down to the chunk he had sliced off the dummy. Is the watch more important than your own family? Again he looked at me with heartfelt unease, as if to say anything would be bad. If it is my duty to protect others, and if it is noble to serve that duty, then why should I be doing this? Why should I spend so much time saving my own life instead of other people's lives? Why? Why couldn't I say that the watch is more important? If it was true, it would be easy to say. He looked back at me and showed a measure of hopeful anticipation. In my head, I think that all this is wrong, but in my heart, I don't know. So Marshall said you had to let Ellen help us. Your father is wise. Ellen is too. They know better than us. It's not yet our turn to go against them. Junso looked around and nodded again, letting his doubts escape through a sigh. All right, we will go to the sanctuary. I didn't need convincing, no. I would have gone along with Alan regardless of what you said. If you feel better about what we're doing, then all of us will feel better about it too. He stepped forward and we headed for the front of the inn. There's something else I wanted to say. Hmm? Alan's going to find a cure for us, and I'll do everything I can to help out. I'm not that smart, I don't know magic, and frankly, I'm not confident I'll be of much help, but I'll do my best. He said that this affliction of ours is linked to the circle, and the circle makes us pervaders able to use magic. On instinct, he moved his hand down and pressed it against his lower hip. If we have to lose our circles to lose this affliction, then so be it. I accept that. What I mean is, I want you to know that you don't have to worry about me getting in the way. Jim shook his head. Last night I was upset and rude, and I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said what I said. You'll do right by us. I understand that now. You weren't entirely wrong. I know that magic doesn't sit well with you, but I really want to learn it. I was too excited to think clearly about what it all meant. What you said made me rethink things. He turned to look at me. For the first time I saw an inkling of a smile. Okay, Remus. As we walked, Alan turned the corner and met us. He stood there while we approached. He saw us walking alongside each other. With his eyes met mine, I smirked. And he smiled back. Although I had become used to seeing Jim Shaw's face larger than a disappointed frown, I knew now that his mood was not always like that. All right, which way are we headed, Alan? And Alan gave him a respectful nod. Further north still, and a bit to the east. The place is called Valgurion, and if the road is good to us, we should be there in 3 days. Let's not waste any more time then. And so we walked together this time, almost northeast towards the sanctuary we had agreed upon as our destination. As we began our lockstep journey, I felt more optimistic about our future. And I'm sure we will face many challenges on the road ahead of us. This will not be the last time we argue. We are likely to stumble upon problems which will shake our faith more than I wish to imagine. But beyond all that, I'm hopeful. If we have managed to overcome this hurdle, then the next one will be easier to handle. We continued on our journey into the country. The road was just as long and winding as it was before Miriam. I breathed more steadily this time, and my legs had a softer ache to them. Another village came before us, larger, dormant a hill. At its peak, a white church tower pierced at the sky with its long, steely vane fastened into a up-pointing feather. It was a symbol of a faith I did not yet recognize. Alan explained to me that our thing was a mosaic of different cultures which patterned countrysides that varied not only in land but also in people. He did not recognize the feather, but claimed it was a symbol of this land's particular religion. Up the hill and down the valley we went, passing by old farmers whose faces were roasted by the summer sun. When they would glance our way, their eyes narrowed just one flash before returning to their husbandry and gossip. Unspoken understanding kept us level-headed. As long as we didn't act strange, they would not react strangely. Their accosting towards us was much more tempered compared to that of Heron's lackeys. This was an expected level of suspicion. It was decided that we would avoid resting in towns overnight for fear of waking up with a Sylvan presence around us, at least until we get further north. Although we were outside the domain, Zimsar urged us not to take any risk. We stumbled into Heron once. There are other, less forgiving people on the road. Best to avoid them. Further we treaded as evening fell. 2 more villages were now behind us, drowned out among the hills and scattered corpses. There were no towns on our way to the sanctuary, and that was out of deliberation. The map revealed to us the safest course. From then on out, only the road and its flanking wilderness kept us company. My steps sank and pushed into the dark and humid ground. It was starting to get muddy up ahead, and the sky bore an acid curtain of clouds fringed by the silvering of sunlight. The air was damp and cool, riddled with earthen smells. The gentle breeze would occasionally sharpen and cut at my cheeks and muzzle, bringing the chill down to the roots of my whiskers. It must have rained earlier, and it looked to rain again. There was a silent flash in the clouds up ahead, and we all flinched. A storm's coming. Aye, it must be time to call it a day. The distant crash of thunder washed over us, rattling through the air and earth. It continued to echo across the hills behind us. Jimson pointed off to the side of the road. Over there, an abandoned mill, its white silhouette jutted against the dull sky. Wild weeds and bushes flared at its base, marking its decay. We all glanced at each other and nodded. That would be our likely cover for the night. Alan walked ahead while I and Jigsaw followed. As we got closer, the mill's verdant qualities became richer, in spite of the overcast. Vines winded and crawled up between the quartz stones and over the ruined parapet, as if chaining down a sleeping giant. A coat of leaves covered its north-facing side. If we came the other way, it might have stayed hidden among the trees. Alan approached the entryway. The door was missing, although there were markings there. There were markings where the hinges used to be. Wait here. I will see if it's safe. We stood back and observed Alan. He brought his hands in front of him and made him dance to the rhythm of a spell. 3 wisps of light appeared, floating above and around him like an aura. He crept closer. The flying flares followed him. They glided ahead through the entrance and west up the tower, painting the inner walls in golden light. I could see them shine through the cracks in the walls and up above. Alan leaned in to take a peek. After judging it safe, he stepped inside and looked it over once more. The tension in his shoulders went away. He raised his hand and went to touch the wall, tapping it and patting it over. After satisfying his caution, Alan released a deep breath. He gave his cloak a flutter. Alan looked down and knelt, picking up a piece of wood among the remains. It was an unlit torch, though its cloth was unraveled. Alan wound it back together, then moved his hands and mouth to fasten another spell. A true flame burst atop the kindling. The wisp would then vanish. Now we were left only with the flicker of the flame. He mounted the torch on a sconce across the doorway. All right, come on in. Jigsaw and I entered the husky mill. Look at this place. The floor is littered with gravel, overgrowth, rotten wood, rags, and broken shelvings. A stench of damp ferment permeated the place. It was heavy enough to notice, but light enough not to be too distracting, as if something died here too long ago for the land to remember. Although the building was damaged, it didn't look like a victim of war. What was ruined seemed to stem only from the passage of time. That thought gave me some peace. We were not likely to be disturbed in this place. Glancing up, I noticed there wasn't much of a roof over our heads. Most of the ceiling had withered away, with only a few wooden beams still in place. That did not bode well for shelter. Throwing an idea crossed my mind. I laid down my knapsack on one of the cold stones and pulled out the tarp inside it. Jigsaw looked at me with a raised eyebrow. You want to set up a tent in here? Not exactly. Help me out, will you? I turned towards the stony stairs of the mill. Jigsaw put his sword away, leaning against the wall before joining me. He followed me as I climbed up the stairs, the first couple of wooden beams. Wait a minute, what are you doing? Down below, Alan glowered at me. I just want to hang this tarp over our heads. Mess around up there and this place might crumble. I'm not going high up. I pointed at the wooden beams. If we laid the tarp over these, it should keep us dry. Alan's eyes Alan's wide eyes slowly relaxed. He sighed and gave a curt nod. All right, but be careful, don't slip. He glanced away only for a moment before returning to stare up at us with a frown, and handed one side of the tarp to Jimsaw while I climbed further up to get to the other log. Kneeling down, I reached out and pulled the tarp over, tucking the ends between the beam and wall, said to the trick. Just drape it over. Jimsaw did as I did, and let the other ends hang over the other beam. Now one side still remained covered come rain. Good, now come down. Easy now. I pattered down the steps, taking care not to trip. Outside I heard the perambling wind begin its assault on the foliage surrounding this place. Alan's scowl turned soft when I reached the bottom. He parted his lips narrowly as if about to go off on me. But when I met his troubled glance, he froze and softened further, then turned away. Jimsaw and I drew our lips straight as we stared at each other for a moment. Our eyes said the same thing. He is much too worried for us. We set aside our bags and prepared for the night. We'll make a fire. Help me gather all these rags and put them in a pile here. I nodded at this, he asked. Alan walked outside, his cloak whipping in the rising wind. He was picking up firewood by the entrance. We scrounged up everything that could be used for fuel. Alan borrowed the torch from its place on the wall and lit the heap of fire. Then we sat, huddled around the glowing flame, resting our backs against the cold stone wall. Soon the sky above turned thick with clouds, and we inched further back below the tarp. The sound of wind last leaves outside was starting to weaken, replaced by a drenching pitter-patter. Hopefully the tarp will keep. It started to pour. The shelter worked out well enough, except at times when a gust of water would spill between the beam and the wall, twirling down the stones to reach our backs. The air grew cold and misty. My snout and arms were trickled by the specking of droplets which splashed against the stone floor in front of me. Looking through the doorless flame, outside became a curtain of falling needles set against pitch black. I felt like we were in a void, as if this narrow space was all that was left of the world, trapped in its last failing bastion. Everything else was forgotten or lacking the substance to make it real. Everything else was forgotten or lacking the substance to make it real. My eyes focused on a small pool that had formed at the ends of my toes, its surface rippling with each raindrop. I glanced over to Alan on my right. He met my concerned stare and held it for a few moments. Then he gave me a sort of nudge. It's fine, it'll be over soon. Rains don't last long around these parts. Off to my left sat Jimsaw, with his knees up to his chin. He was fiddling with his fingers, and his tousled hair had become dark with wet spots. Although he had a tendency to look sour all the time, I recognized the tension in his furrowed brow. Are you okay? He sighed and looked down, tapping his foot haphazardly on the damp cobblestone. I don't like the rain. Jimsaw leaned forward and reached his arm back to pull out the sword and scabbard from behind him. He pushed his knees back down and held the weapon in his lap, his thumb pushed up on the hilt, lifting it an inch to flash the blade's metal. My blade would get rusty in the storm. Shouldn't it be safe in that? Water could trickle down into it. I'm not sure where to put it to keep it dry. I found it strange to see him so concerned for his weapon, although he is a swordsman, but so I shouldn't be surprised. Maybe it's because he looks just as concerned for that thing as he was for his father. Thankfully the rain will not last much longer. A little while later the drizzling sounds were beginning to fade. It stopped pouring. The flame in front of us was beginning to dim. I held my hands outwards, basking in its fading warmth. Although the dark clouds were passing over, the night and its chill was already here. Alan stood up. His hand brushed away the dirt under his bushy tail. Then he readjusted his waistband. All right, we'll sleep here tonight. He stared out. The tarp had kept, though it had gathered water. I'll take it down. Alan gave me another concerned look, though he understood it had to be done. If it stays up there, it might slip and spill all of the water it had collected right on top of us. A little while later, everything was ready. Our bedrolls were set up and the lights were off. Good night. Back again in this unconscious void. For a moment, I felt that I had returned into the wasteland dream, but it was only a fleeting memory. The shadow was still in that place. I could feel it, even though I did not visit it again. Whatever I was dreaming, it would not stay with me come morning. Fate had decided that I would sleep well this night. I woke up to the gentle crackling of a campfire. A spoon clanged against a kettle, followed by the old bear's snuffle. Up above, I heard a bird flutter and land on a perch, and saying paused, and after a while it flew away again. My eyes opened. I was alone in the old mill. Alan and Jim were nearby, I knew, but their immediate absence made me nervous. I jutted out of my bedroll and went outside. The two of them were sitting around a new campfire they had made, a little ways off to the side near themselves. Alan was tending to the kettle. Across from him, Jim was sat drinking tea. As he sipped, his eyes met mine. I pressed over to join him. Alan turned to nose me. Good morning, Ramus. Good morning. Jim lifted his cup toward me and nodded. Before I could sit down, Alan pushed a bowl of fried mushrooms in my lap. Sit, eat. Oh, thank you. Jim picked these up himself. The leopard seemed proud of himself. I nodded thanks to him as well. Did you guys have breakfast already? Yes, I didn't want to wake you earlier. You were sleeping so soundly. Like a princess. I sat down. Again, I'm the only one who wakes up last. Why does this always happen? Am I lazy? I glanced over at Alan and Jim then they didn't seem too concerned. Sorry if I overslept. On the road, sleeping well is not oversleeping, and this is no favors if you don't have the strength to carry on. Besides, there's only so much we can travel every day. True, half a day on foot is enough. More than that, and you risk killing over sooner rather than later. You do a lot of traveling? Not a lot, but more than most. We are trained as soldiers. As part of that is marching. I know when it's time to stop. Still, I couldn't shake this burdensome feeling. I lowered my eyes and looked at the bowl. My thoughts kept pestering me as I grabbed a mushroom and brought it to my pouting lips. In my absent-mindedness, I forgot to open up, instead smearing fungal juices all over my snout. I flinched and lowered the bowl back down to my lap, then wiped the mess from my mouth. Jimsaw chuckled. Do pervaders often forget how to put food in their mouths? My lips wanted to draw into a pout again, but I caught myself as I was doing it. I gave him a playful sneer instead. No, you just picked sight mushrooms. Maybe you have sight taste. Oh ho, that's an injury. Back home, we used to put mushrooms into bread. When the Duke held feasts, he would order some of Father's companions. Give me some plurals, and I'll make the best stew you've ever had. Such fancy. Too bad it won't help you out here. Look around you, Ramus. There's no market here. You have to find them in the wild. He wagged a finger at me. I bet you don't know the poisonous ones from the good ones. I hesitated and he leaped at the opportunity. I knew it, you're helpless. Your mushrooms are still sight. Oh really? Hand it over if you're not gonna eat. I'll spare you the embarrassment. You really don't want it. Hang on there, lad. I cooked those mushrooms. Are you saying my cooking is sight? Not at all. I sweated and stared at the watchman. See, Jim saw, if it wasn't for Alan, these wouldn't be edible. Lambert simmered and rolled his eyes. All right, hush now and eat your breakfast. I tended to my meal, making sure not to mess up the first bite again. Wouldn't want to give him more reason to tease me. Or maybe I would. We should arrive at Valgirion tomorrow. It's good that last night's storm cut us when it did, else we might have delayed. Alan turned to look at me. I want to check your condition. Then he turned to Jim Sore. Yours too. Based on what I saw back in Chariot, those rifts on your bodies become dangerous when they grow to cover each limb. It's been 3 days since. Now is a good time to see how far it has gone. Jim Sore and I both nodded at Alan. I rose to my feet and lifted my shirt up over my head, exposing my sergel and the crackling inflection. Although I had this thing on my body for a while now, the fact that it was growing hadn't been on my mind. Strange, I never desired to check on it. I always knew it was there, unshakable, fettering. That it was a threat to my life was only a passing, conscious thought. To my surprise, Jim Sore had undressed to his underwear. Of course, the shrapnel struck him in the hip, and that was where his sergel must be. What struck me was his impressive body. He's younger than me, yet looks like he could break me in half if I ever got on his bad side. He's so sinewy. I turned away, not wanting him to notice me staring. Come here, both of you. The two of us stood in front of Alan. He took a while to study us, comparing the different ways the cracks manifested over our bodies. Do you feel it in any way? I feel that it's there, but it's not really a feeling. Yeah, I can tell it's on me. Alan pressed his finger over the mark going up the web. Any pain? His touch made me shudder. I haven't felt another man's hands on me in quite a while. It brought about awkward thoughts, which I hurried to put away. He flinched as I flinched, our eyes locked. Sorry, it's fine. I don't feel anything so too strange. We both stared at the mark and how it pulsated. It can't be a coincidence that it's beating along with my heart. No, you're right. That's worrisome. It's probably why it's so dangerous. He then turned to examine Jim Sore as well. His eyes darted between his mark and mine. Jim Sore was biting his lip. At times he would look away into the distance. Alan, can't this thing be cut out? The old bear glared at him. We'll have none of that business here. If that's what you want to do, then you should let Harold take you to the clergy. Jim Sore frowned and opened his mouth as if to say something, stopping him just short. This affliction will be treated with care and mercy. That's not what I meant. I don't know if it works. Don't talk, Watch. If it did, you would have seen it. What are you two going on about? They both glanced at me. Jim Sore sighed away. The Watch takes sick pleasure in torturing pervaders. It's not torture. They cut into the flesh where the sergel is and try to remove it, treating it as if it's a physical condition, hoping that they can turn us into sailmen to make us lose our powers. Madness. It's not like that. Only watchmen who awaken and only those who volunteer to the clerk. I don't care for your brutal excuses. We will not go down that path. Jim Sore stared back at Alan for a while. Why are you so sure it wouldn't work? Isn't this curse different? It's not on your skin or your fur, lad. It's on the thing that is you. Try carving it out, or you'll only make it worse. I'm saying this for your sake. Put the thought away. Mercy on us all if you maim yourself and get an infection too. Jim Sore said nothing, lowered his chin and turned away. He went to put his pants back on. Alan sighed and gave a nod towards me. Yeah, I also went to get my shirt. As we cooled off a little, Alan gathered us again by the campfire. He sat down on a log. holding a stick in his hand and tapping it twice onto the fire dirt between his feet. Jigsaw, do you know about our different circles? We learned about them during training. He scratched his chin. I've forgotten the specifics. It doesn't matter much to me anyway, providers hide their circles. By the time I get close enough to look at it, they're no longer able to use their magic. Well, yes, this lesson should be good for you too. Alan leaned forward and pushed the tip of the stick against the ground, using it to draw a shape. Each Pervader has a unique sigil. It's a thing that defines the quality of their powers. Jigsaw stood by, crossing his arms. Although each sigil is different, they all fall into several distinct patterns. Recognizing the pattern will tell you much about one's magical talents. It will help you understand yourself better. Ellen had drawn several distinct shapes on the ground. Each of these symbols represents a different affinity to magic. He pointed at the first one, the moon sigil representing the seers, the sun it marks the firebrands, the tower worn by doctors, the hand branding witches, the wheel for rebels. I'm one of those. The feather whose pervaders are called dancers, and finally the hammer, the symbol of carvers. What do they all mean? Alan was tapping his foot and staring down. I studied each sigil and tried to see if I could recognize mine among them. Alan lifted his sleeve and sewed off his own. Look, my sigil has many different markings with different widths and lengths of U-shape, dotted parts. Even though it is missing part of the circle, the wheel pattern is there, see? Indeed, if I had to pick which one was most alike, it would be the one Alan drew as a wheel. The circle was unfinished, but the prongs on all the sides made it clear, though none of these symbols seemed to describe what I had. I lifted my shirt up and stared at my own, comparing it to what was in front of me. Does it look like any of these? You have a peculiar sigil. And does it look very similar to these? Alan sighed. I'm not an expert of sigils, but it does look strange to me. Every sigil I've ever seen, I've been able to correctly guess the pattern. Yours looks too much different. He was rubbing his chin and looking down, and now sat cross-legged on the ground, trying to figure out. Could it be the moon? A circle in the middle, then the other three circles make a triangle. That has to be the closest thing, right? Alan shook his head. All moon sigils I've seen have at least a few lines making the triangle. The middle circle will always be resting on the bottom edge. It does resemble the moon, but those important characteristics are missing from yours. I cannot say it's the one. I'm not sure what to tell you, Ramus. These are all the sigils? All the ones we know of. I sat there and thought, attempted to make sense of what was on the ground and on me. A gentle frustration urged me to keep trying, but after a while, I gave up. Another bird call rang and passed somewhere close above, breaking my concentration. Jennifer, what do you think? He was standing to the side, looking away and unconcerned. I don't know. Sorry, but I don't really care about this stuff. Why are we making such a big deal about it anyway? What does it matter? Well, it matters to me. I want to know what I can do. That's not why I told you this. I noticed your soldier back in Chariot and thought it strange then. An enchanted dagger explodes, inflicts this melody, and also gives you a mark I cannot identify. Alan shook his head and tapped the stick against his foot. But what is it? Maybe is it a sigil? Alan kept silent, pondering and poking at the ground with his stick. After a while he spoke. Ramus, I think it's time I taught you magic. I felt a rush crawl up my spine and my face wrinkled into an uncomfortable smile. Finally, My excitement could hardly be contained as I sprung up and stood before him. Yes, thank you, Alan. I've been wanting this for so long. Calm down, you've only been Pervader for 3 days. 3 days too long. Ever since we were locked up in that cell, I've been begging Alan to teach me something. The old bear rose to his feet, the corners of his lips only just barely hinted upwards as a half smile. Alright, I want you to be careful though. He placed his hand on my shoulder and tilted his head downwards, his eyes level with mine, staring. Mess this up badly and you'll scorch your furry little head. Alan then gave a chuckle and patted my shoulder. I'll do it perfectly, you'll see. My overconfidence amused Alan. He slapped his belly with both hands and tugged on his shirt, readjusting it. Huh, we will see indeed. Alan and I stepped into a small clearing within the thicket at the side of the old mill. I'd like to see what you can do just to figure out if your surgeon really works. The canopy above casts heavy patterned shadows on the short grass, rocks, twigs, and dirty mounds. Morning dew freshness permeated the grade, tickling my nostrils. Each breath I took was great and gratifying. A ladybug buzzed and flew past my left ear. My eyes followed it as it rose towards the trees. A ray of light bleeding through the foliage blinded me and urged me to refocus. Well, Stewart started out by playing with a basic spell that this is what I want you to do. He and I stood a few feet apart, facing each other. Jimswar was there too. All to the side, sat lying in the thickest shade below a younger tree. I'll demonstrate again. Alan flicks his hands and fingers, producing a floating orb of gentle light. This is a torch, and I want you to try and make one of these. Alright. How do I do that exactly? You've told me that you can feel the mark on your body. What else can you feel? What do you mean? The wisp began to float towards me. Its movement was gentle, bobbing up and down as it approached. When it got close to me, it slowed down, then entered my body. The wisp set itself in my chest. Its light bled through my skin and lit up my fur. I felt my insides begin to radiate and stir. My breath became warmer and my thoughts softened. The air was tangible. Every hair on my skin shone and prickled. My entire being felt vulnerable, but there was also a sense of balance and peace, like I was asleep and awake at the same time. What is this? Do you feel it? My mind wandered in places and spaces that I could not understand, because I did not even feel the need to understand. Waves of red, orange, and yellow, glowing, bright and dark, washing away from a webbed, poked background. Floral and bitter scents flowed in every possible direction. Something cool and smooth held in hand. It touches a living petal and breaks apart with a crunch. I feel strange. You're in a stimulated flow state now. I suddenly felt a great loss. There was oneness, then everything went back to normal. My head came crashing, forced back into a holy material experience. The acute feelings from before were reduced to a fleeting, unplaceable instinct. It's also raw again. Raw and lesser. The wisp had disappeared. I held my hands forward. My fur returned to its normal state, absent of inner light. Why? Why did you stop? Don't get drunk on that just yet, Weymouth. The point of that exercise was to check how responsive you are to magic, and you have to respond it well. Very good. It means that you truly are capable of magic. The surgeon is true. You are a pervader. Can you do that again? I will not. I gave you a taste of what you need to look for. Now, you must seek it out yourself. He raised his hands once more and conjured the wisp. It moved forward again, but this time it stopped midway and rose up slightly, just high enough to be out of reach. Urge yourself to sense the wisp as you felt it when it was inside your chest. Close your eyes. Search for the sense that narrows. The sense that narrows. I don't understand any of this. What is this trying to achieve? Focus. Focus. My mind delved and tried to recall that sensation. It's hard to grasp. I brought my hands forwards. Alan's movements were arcane, though I tried to do what he did, flicking my wrists and fingers to try and lug my way into his magic. Who told you to move your hands? But that was what you were doing. I said to search your senses, not play with your fingers. Keep your hands to your sides, then take a deep breath. Take a good look at the wrist. Try to focus on it. Then close your eyes and find it another way. Keep searching. I stood there in awkward idleness, feeling like a total fool. This isn't what Alan does when he casts a spell. There's always a movement of hands and some kind of words uttered. My eyes were locked on to the wisp. What am I supposed to see? It's there, but there's nothing else I'm getting from it. I closed my eyes. Am I trying to cast a spell, or is there a different point to this? I stood still, listening to the breeze shuffling through the bush behind me. That's not where I should be. I tried to concentrate, searching for anything relevant, the wisp, or Alan, or some kind of arcane hint. Nothing came to me except for the darkness of said The sound of a snapping twig several feet away put an end to my meditation. Jimson had risen to his feet and was reaching up to grab something from the tree. I broke away, frustrated and defeated, pacing around the shade. What are we doing, Alan? In an instant, the wisp vanished again, and Alan walked toward me with an icy stare. Do you want to learn magic or not? Yes. Just start acting like a child. I'm not asking you to do much, just concentrate. Are there words you... No. No words for you. His voice was booming, and his face turned terrible, flashing teeth. The pits in his eyes seemed darker and sharper. And the wrinkles around his eyes mellowed out. The bottom of his lip trembled before he spoke again. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to raise my voice. He lifted his arms forward slowly, reaching gently for his shoulders. He grabbed me and squeezed me just tight again. Look, Raymond, I want you to do this. I need to know how you can handle magic. I'm not trying to be difficult with you. This is the way that it has to be done. That has always been. All Pervaders learn this way. It's no big deal. This is just the first step. I know it can be frustrating, but you need to push past it. I need you to succeed. Alan kneaded at my shoulders, then he let me go. He tilted his head to the side, pleading with me with watering eyes. Knowing that you are able, you may give me some insight about this curse, please. Me? Yes, you'll see. The corners of his mouth drew up and soured me with that reassuring smile of his. I trust you. I know you can do this. All you have to do is focus. It's not going to be obvious at first, but you'll get there. I promise you'll get there, alright? Okay, it's fine. I know I shouldn't have gotten so frustrated. Thank you, Alan. I'd be lost without you. He nodded, letting his gaze sift away. Both of us then happened to look at Jimson, who was lying below the tree, munching on an apple in his hand. He continued to snack and staring at us like we were making a scene. I threw a critical stare his way, and he just rolled his eyes again. Well, best get back to it then. Yeah, I'll try again. Remember to breathe deep, close your eyes, and just search. As he walked away, he conjured another wisp, making it float just below the canopy. Anna stepped over to Jim's and wagged his finger at him to get up. I'll stay here and make sure he doesn't get into trouble. Hey! The old bear snatched the half-eaten food from the leopard's hands. A thief as well. Alan scurried off and Jimson ran to catch up to him. I heard them return to the campfire. Now let's focus. Breathe in. Breathe out. In. Out. I would focus on the words above. You will be mine. Eyelids closed. My mind wandered back to the moment when the light was inside me. I worked to dress up that memory as clearly as I could, to recall the sights, sounds, and smells about it. It was hard to focus as I would be tempted to wander toward other memories. Every time I stepped, I would see Ellen's face. Focus on the task, Remus. Light in my chest, peace of mind, searching. The thing that narrows. The black vivid sway of thoughts played my concentration, sometimes giving into picturesque distractions. I saw a mockery of Alan standing away from the nothingness of the background. His kind smile shone through. Behind him, a stern look. Jim saw his father. His hand was on his son's back, urging him forward. No, this isn't where I should be. I tried to dispel this mindscape, but it perished. I tried to dispel this mindscape, but it persisted. Jim's Shaw was still there, solid, stark, unwavering. My mind edged closer to Constance's space, risking a return to reality. I could go over. This place is uncertain, yet I feel there is something useful to be found if I keep going. The pit is fading. I cannot abandon it yet. Jim saw. His outline grew sharper. He was in steel armor, and then he was in light armor. Then he lied down, as shadow fell over him and everything around him. He was holding something. Suddenly, a tree became real, growing from behind where he lay. It grew and grew. Branches extended and pulled outwards like lines thrown across the deck of a ship. Little sprigs pulled out aside the branches, then they grew flowers, a remarkable bloom, fruit on every branch. Apples. The tree stopped growing, but gave life to what was adjacent. A floating branch, tip to tip, just side of touching. This one started to grow too, only in reverse. The airborne branch extended into the trunk, down to its roots, which stuck into the ground behind me. The two trees made an arch. I realized there was another element present. It was always there, yet only now it came to awareness. The wisp, just as vivid as the other elements this vision. It floated below the canopy, as if hanging together with the other fruit, as if hiding with them. I almost thought it a conscious and clever thing, like design, camouflage. Now it was clear. The scene grew wilder. Grass below my feet sprung up and took shape and shade. There was no sun or sky, yet light shone through openings in the foliage. Other trees sprung up. Distant sounds began to ring. I felt my whiskers tickle at a gentle breeze, the bugs, buzzing, chirping, whistling, wind. This is too much. I felt overburdened with sensation. The scene kept getting larger, yet everything was fuzzier. The wisp, is losing shape. Its light has dulled. I cannot let it escape. Get it back, come on. I forced my vision self to look at it. Can I understand it now? I see, there's a tendency to find adjacencies. Travel down the grapevine, hop and skip from thing to thing to find more and more. But I need to force myself to lock on to the essentials. The wisp grew sharper, only other aspects began to fall out of conscious thought. The grass was gone, Simsar was gone. The apples vanished one by one. I condensed every detail into its thought material and redirected it towards that little light. A heavy sparkle, showed me everything you know. Remus. Alan's voice tore me away from where I was. I opened my eyes and flinched, upset that I had lost that spatial trance. My face clenched. I wouldn't go off on him, though I would let him know I was annoyed again. When I stopped to study his expression, I saw there was a quirk to it. What is it? Did you do this? What did I do? I looked around, but nothing seemed to have happened. He pointed at the wisp. What is he talking about? Do what? This. He pulls away with a hand around the wisp. I see the wisp was now floating at a lower height. I put it up there when I left you, and now it's down here. Ah, what did you do? I scratched my head. I don't know, I just did what you told me. There was a wisp, and Jim saw it in the apples. Alan peeked at me through narrow eyes. He pointed a finger upwards and swirled it around in a circling motion. Can you move it around? Move it? How would I? Just move it. He pointed at the wisp, then pointed it to the side. The old bear looked at me and nodded, smirking and showing a hint of teeth. Earlier he got mad at me for trying to use my hands. I don't know what he wants me to do, but I don't understand how else I would carry this out. I slowly brought my hand up, checking to see if he could get upset again. He nodded some more and smiled more broadly. Where's we on? We're okay. I held my hand forwards, pointing it at the wisp. I thought to grasp it, trying to wield it to exert my intentions. Then I straightened my hand to the right. The wisp moved. It's moving. As the motion carries on, an intense shiver rushes down my spine. Remarkable. I'm gasping. Alan, I'm doing it. Moving my hand left, the wisp followed left. Lifting up my hand, up went the little light. I swayed up and down, left and right, back and forth all around. Sock and all. The tiny thing dances at every twitch of wrist or finger. It's just like the time held that wand. It's the exact same motion, like a puppet following strings. I'm dizzy, I feel drunk, and there are tears welling up in my eyes. I'm grinning so hard it's starting to hurt. Through my blurred vision, I see that my hand is trembling. My legs are shaky. There, lad. Alan had placed his arm around me, supporting me. I was feeling heavy and weak, and he was there for me to lean on. He gingerly pushed me down and helped me rest against a tree. I kept my hand extended, desperately holding on to the wisp. I can control it. Yes. I was out of it for a while. Jim still had brought me a cup of water. The day's heat had started to seep in, but it was nice here under the shade. Alan's here, kneeling next to me. He smiled, looking proud, yet his eyes held a hint of something else. I couldn't tell exactly what it was. There's no need to hide things from me, Alan. What is it? He parted his lips to look surprised. You did good, lad. I can't believe I managed it. It took me a while to get there, but I focused really hard and got to see it. At least I think that's what happened. So strange though. It's all magic like this. Meditating like that. It can't be the way you always cast spells who don't do that. Alan, you must teach me how you do it. He went quiet but kept staring at me just the same. It was the stare he had given me before. This is what he looked like right before revealing that he was a Pervader. What is it? What is what? Am I misreading him? Maybe he thinks I'm being silly. He looked away. I waited for him to respond, but nothing came. Alan, come on, tell me. He turned slightly towards me, but kept looking down. His hand rested on the ground, fingers playing with the blades of grass between them. A heavy breath escaped from his mouth. You know, you didn't exactly cast a spell. You didn't cast? Yes, that's true. I only moved the wisp. So what? That was still magic, wasn't it? Did I do something wrong? Alan gave a soft smile and a placative wave of hand. No. The opposite, actually. You were only supposed to explore your insight. Instead, you went beyond and applied yourself. Is that strange? He rubbed his chin and glanced up at the side. Perhaps not strange, rather uncanny, I think. You are quite a bit older than the average newly awakened Most start their training when they come of age. But you are not that young. You do not have the weight of immaturity. Insight and outlook, weathered by life. You are poised to do better, I see. I shouldn't be surprised, really. I'm not that mature. This is a measure of maturity to say something like that. That would be a chuckle. Then he let out a roaring laughter. I thought him mad. What's so funny? His glee boiled down until eventually he stopped, rubbing a tear from his eye. It made me happy and proud. He simply stared at me, beaming. I could hardly resist returning the smile. It made me feel warm inside. I wanted it so long, and finally it happened. Yet doubt began to creep in my mind. Somehow I had gained control of the wisp. How did that happen? I didn't understand it. Was it a fluke? Maybe I was lucky. Like I hoped to be lucky when I was mimicking Alan's hand movements. I turned away from Alan. From the corner of my eye, I saw him tilt his head. I think I was just lucky. Alan, I didn't understand what I was doing. I was picturing the place. I saw the wisp, but I didn't decide to control it. Something happened. It happened because you intuited the right thing. No need to doubt yourself. Was I supposed to cast my own wisp? Not quite. He says I did well, but how can I believe that if I don't understand it? Awareness is fine. The first step was to find the correct mind space so you can manifest your ability. Now that you've been through that, you can repeat that process to find your way to the next part. Okay. Alright, this will take a little while longer. I saw Jimsaw walk up to us, smiling with half a heart and eyes glazed. He cleared his throat. Are we heading off anytime soon? Alan stood up and met him. We need a little bit more time. Jimsaw sighed. Well, alright, it's still early, but if another storm catches us, we have time. Regardless, Williams has some work to do. You may help us understand what is going on with you, too. Thank you for your patience. The leopard exhaled through pursed lips. His eyes narrowed, but he hesitated to voice any more complaints. Okay, I'll just break camp while you guys finish up. Thank you, Jimsaw. He pointed away. Alan placed his hands on his hips and rolled his eyes at me. He has a point. I have a better one. He extended his hand towards me. Come on, stand up. This time, Alan explained to me the various angles where I can follow to tackle this spellbound meditative trance in order to manifest magic. The imagined space is the sandbox from which spells are cast. Symbols must be fastened through figments of what he calls mind clay. Picture a candle. Set a flame in your mind. See it flicker in the breeze. Notice the hues and the rise and fall of intensity. Spot the blackened wick at its core. See the sharp trail of smoke rising up and fading. Smell the fumes and melted wax. Feel it burn. Pour fuel on the flame and make it grow. Make it blaze like a torch. Okay, so Jimsaw apologized to Ramus for him lashing out at him last night when they were still at the place in that village run by the Watchmen. And Ramus was very happy that he did that, and so it looks like they're getting along more now, you know. Well, especially with Jimsaw, looks like he's getting along with Ramus now instead of being standoffish, you know, just not talking to him and just being a little hostile because of the fact that he's a pervader, even though he's only been pervader for 3 days, just like him. But I'm happy that they're they are getting along now, and that Jimstar decided to just stop with the, this guy just apologize to him and just get along with him. So Alan he drew pictures of the surgals and the different types of surgals in the sand, and Ramus's surgal looked kind of weird because it didn't really look like any of the surgals Alan drew. So there might be something special about Ramus. Now he did get his surgals pretty late, and so I don't know if that has anything to do with it, because most people who get their surgal and become pervaders is when they're of age, which I assume is 18, I guess. I don't know what the age is for somebody to be of age in this, medieval country or setting, but I'm just gonna assume it's 18. And Ramus is 24, so he's a good many years past of age, so he's pretty late. So, and he was able to make the orb that Alan made move. He managed to move it on his own without needing a wand or anything. So Wayne was very happy about that, and it was through the dream that he had when he decided to meditate. When Alan told him to meditate, when he meditated, I think that's had a big part in him being able to move the orb. So, in that part where that face Jim Zor made when Alan took the apple from him, that was hilarious. That was funny when the reaction Jim Zor gave when Alan took the apple from him. So next time they should be able to make it to the sanctuary in their journey to get the daggers and to heal the veins that are spreading across their bodies. I mean, it's an urgent task to find the daggers, because those veins keep spreading across their bodies, and they actually pulse along with their heartbeats. Like the veins, I think they flash or move at the rhythm of the heartbeat. So yeah, it's very urgent for them to find these daggers, or to find a solution to get rid of these marks. So thank you all very much for watching. Goodbye.